Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 38. That's season 2, episode number 18 of Excel TV. How you doing, Sylvia?
Never better, Rick. It's great to be back here on Excel TV, especially tonight because it's Chick Night. Jordan, how you doing?
I'm great. I have these comically large headphones. I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio, with my new headset. We'll see if this one actually stays around for next week. How are you, Mynda?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me back. I can't believe it was 2 years ago since I've been on, so I'm glad to be back, coming to you from Australia. Unfortunately, it's not beer o'clock where I am, so enjoy your beverages, but I've got water.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. So, everyone, this is Rick Rantham, rickrantham.com, also Excel.tv, coming to you from the new Excel TV corporate headquarters here in Northeast Florida. Apparently, it's Chick Night, so this is Ladies' Night, so raise them if you got them. There you go. So, first part of our show is the challenge section. Take it away, Jordan.
So last week I asked you what Excel function helps you figure out the monthly loan payment. I asked you this because we were on a finance kick for Model Off. We had millions of responses. The answer was payment. So of those millions of true responses that we had, of correct responses, Sean O'Donnell has been picked. Congratulations, Sean. You will be winning a free ebook version of my new book, Dashboards for Excel. It's really a great reader. Have fun with it. It's a good book. So this week's question. So I'm not sure how many of you folks have used the color index property, but Excel has an internal color palette, and you can retrieve the color you're interested in using the color index property. Now, there's only a limited number of these color index properties. So how many colors are available in total? So I am looking for a number. What is the maximum amount of colors you can use in the, or what is the maximum color index, I should say, of the color index property? Now, if you think you know the answer, you can go on our blog, Excel.tv, on this blog post. You can tweet us at ExcelTV, or you can check out us on Facebook at facebook.com. You can either go to our page or you can go to our group. That is this week's challenge. Again, remember, I'm looking for a specific number. Mynda has generously donated to the winner of this question a free course. So you can pick a free course out of her catalog. I think that's correct.
Yeah, anyone.
Great. That is an awesome prize. I know a lot of people who've gone through your courses, and they really love them. So this is a really, really, really awesome prize. So back to you, Rick.
So this week, you did mention the video courses, and this week we kind of have the, I guess, the diva of Excel courses here with us, but not only Excel courses. Being an Excel MVP, she does quite a few Excel courses, but certainly does courses in just about every Office product that's out there. And as people talk about you, Mynda, you built quite a bit of what feels like an Excel training empire over the recent years, and there's a lot of curiosity around how you've done that. And talking with Jordan as he came back from the Excel MVP Summit, or the MVP Summit, and as the Excel people got together over beverages, it seemed that there was a lot of conversation around training. Like he kind of held court there. So could we just start off by maybe just talking about your catalog of training, and then maybe we can dive into how you've gone about creating that?
Yeah, sure. So we started because I really wanted to help people in small businesses, which is who we were working with at the time, get to know more about the programs they had at their fingertips. And so we felt the video courses were the best way because, in a small business, you can't just leave. The receptionist just can't leave for the day and go on a training course. So we felt that the video course was a good fit for those type of workers. But, they're a good fit for everyone these days. They're really popular. And we started off, Excel was my thing, so I focused on Excel, but we realized that Word and Outlook were really critical as well to those roles. So we got someone else to do the courses for the other topics, but my passion was Excel, so I really wanted to sort of promote that and extend not just a regular course, but get into more detail, and so I did a dashboard course, and reporting was my thing back when I had a real job, and so dashboards was a natural kind of topic, but dashboards is a great topic because it spans so many different parts of Excel and your job. You know, you could do the dashboard course and it could be used, or different parts of that could be used in just your day-to-day Excel work. So it was a really good topic from that point of view as well. But I started out and I'd never done any training, you know, other than, you know, when you do a job handover and you talk for 3 days non-stop and you teach someone how to do what you do. That was the only training I'd ever done before. And I started writing blog posts, trying to just build an audience and find my Excel voice and my technique and approach to sharing what I knew. And I just sort of started, and I think that's the biggest thing. You just got to start. People give you feedback, and you know, they'll tell you what they like and what they don't like. And I can remember the first time I recorded a video course, I could feel myself blushing. Like I was so shy. I didn't ever like standing up and doing presentations or anything like that. So even hidden behind my PC with a microphone, I was really nervous. And you get used to it and you get better. And I found that if I wrote a script or at least an outline, then I had something to follow. Make sure it's really short. People don't have a lot of time, and I know myself, I don't have a big attention span. I'm not going to watch a 10-minute video. You're going to lose me after 10 minutes. So, you know, I try and aim for 5. Some topics you can't do in 5, but, you know, try and keep it short. Think about all the things that you struggle with when you're learning that particular subject, if you can remember, and try and break it down in a way that you understand. That's just how I do it. You know, when I teach a formula, I talk about the English translation of that formula, and I color code it. I don't teach the syntax. I say, you know, VLOOKUP this value in this column or this range and return this column, and you know, that's how I teach. So people seem to respond well to that, but you know, you've got to find your voice and just try it, just go with it. And I found with the blogging, it gave me an opportunity to sort of learn myself as well. You know, I didn't start out knowing everything I know now, and I'm still learning all the time. That's one of the great things about Excel. So there's endless topics, endless niches almost, it seems. And yeah, you just got to get started.
So I know that you have several different levels of Excel courses. So you have like a beginners and you have a more advanced one. Can you talk about you know, how you categorize certain things, like what was for beginners and what was for advanced? Because when I deal with training, that was one of the things I first learned when I started training, was that in some people's minds, some things that are advanced are not always advanced, and some things that are beginner are sort of taken for granted. You know, so how did you think about that?
Yeah, I tried to really, that was something I struggled with as well, because people have this preconceived idea of how good their Excel skills are because they just don't know what they don't know. So I started with my syllabus, and I tried to sort of say, well, the beginner topics are the things, they're the minimum standard. They're the things you just have to know. Everyone should know them. And then I looked at the sort of the next level up. I suppose I just related it back to my job. So when I had a job, I thought my Excel skills were pretty good. So really that was intermediate stuff. And now, since I've been blogging and really stretching my knowledge, and people asking me questions has sort of forced me to say, oh, okay, now I get what advanced is. And so, you know, I guess it's a way of you helping people understand what level they are as well. So it's like a bell curve. Some things have got to be beginner, most things are in the middle, and then there's the sort of outliers of the advanced stuff. You know, macros and VBA and more complex nested formulas and that kind of thing. But, you know, it's opinion. There's no, you know, Microsoft don't say, here's an advanced Excel course. It's just what you think. But,
so there's a few things I'd like to question you about. I've almost headed down this path so many times. And, you know, certainly there's a lot of knowledge in Sylvia's head and Jordan's head. You know, they've done a lot of training, a lot of webinars, a lot of, you know, presentations, etc. And almost everybody who comes on the show has just a wealth of knowledge in their head, but not a lot of people have turned that into something that they can monetize in training. and something that they kind of create once, and it kind of has a shelf life that goes on for quite some time. You mentioned a few things around content, right? I heard number one, create an outline. I heard number two, no 10-minute videos, try to keep them 5 minutes or less, try to keep the attention span. And number three, kind of focus on things that you struggle with. But as you were sitting down the first time, and you were going to start recording the first bit of videos, and Jordan and I have kind of played with this before, where we said, okay, well, let's just start recording some stuff. let's take some webinars and let's just start recording our stuff. And you see, that's still on the shelf, right? So if the audience here for this video are people who are looking to take the knowledge and to actually put it into something, what sort of steps would you say that they take to start getting that inertia and start getting started? And next, I want to get to kind of the technology that you've done. But regardless of the technology, how did you kind of get started?
I guess it's no different, really, to standing up in front of a class and teaching a topic. So you've got to decide on your starting point. Sometimes that will be a blank canvas. It'll just be a blank worksheet. Sometimes it will be, here's my data, and I'm going to teach you how to create a pivot table. But you have to start in baby steps. So I suppose it's something I find really difficult to answer, actually, because I don't really think about it. I just go, okay, I want to teach someone how to do this. And it might be that as I start writing it, I realize I need to take a step back and do a video before that, and then I can teach the topic I really want to teach. And you have to assume a certain level of knowledge if you're doing a course that's not just called Excel. You know, if you're doing an Excel course and you start, this is a spreadsheet, this is a cell, this is a row, this is a column. But if you're not doing that kind of course, then you have to say, right, I'm starting at this point, and that's what I do with my dashboard course. I say, I'm assuming you know this stuff. You know how to insert a chart. They're not that hard. I'm going to teach you how to create a chart that's not in the insert chart menu. I'm going to teach you what chart to use for the data that you've got, that kind of thing. But, you know, it's not a lot different to writing a blog post. You know, how do you write a blog post? You come up with a topic, you think about where you're going to start at, what level of knowledge you're going to assume people have, and then you start writing. And the only difference with a video is that you're actually demonstrating that. So it's like sitting down with someone beside you and saying, this is how you insert a pivot table. How would you do that? You just write it out and then you record a video, and that's sort of how I approach it, I suppose, as though I'm teaching someone beside me.
So let's talk about design principles then. So you mentioned one thing, which is no video, is try to keep the videos to 5 minutes. I kind of consider that kind of, you know, tactical design principles that you would go through in figuring out what a course is going to be like. Do you also, within your outline, say, okay, I'm going to target 20 videos, or how do you kind of figure out kind of your structure? Is there kind of are there 5 main topics and then 10 subtopics, or how do you kind of figure out as your structure?
Yeah.
That's what that looks like.
That's a good question, because with the dashboard course that was quite tricky. I kind of had a brain dump of what things I needed to cover. You know, I need to start with design principles, and then I'm going to teach people just a load of different charts, because you know, if I can give you a broad skill set, then you can apply that to lots of different scenarios. And then I looked at, okay, now we've got all those nice charts. How do we kind of automate or interact with those charts? So what interactive elements can I then connect to them? And then, you know, later on I talk about analyzing the data and how you get that data for those charts. And really, I could have put that at the beginning, but I didn't. And now it's there, so it's just there. But I don't think it really matters. And then it's not till the very end of my dashboard course I go, okay, well, now actually you already know how to build a dashboard, because all you need to do is put all those bits into one sheet, and I tell them how to structure their file and that kind of thing. But yeah, that's a difficult thing. I don't ever start out and say I'm going to have 20 videos. It's going to be a 3-hour course, and you know, these are the topics. It evolves over the course of creating it. And I'm try and be quite flexible in how I go about building it, so I don't create a nightmare for myself if I need to change anything. But yeah, that is difficult, coming up with the outline. And I know I spoke to a few people at the summit who I've said to them, you know, if you can do a VBA course, I can market it to my members, I'm not going to do VBA, do a VBA course. And they go, yeah, well, we're just struggling with the outline. Okay.
I have a question. I
So
want
it's
to
a common challenge.
kick it over to Sylvia after this real quick, but just to kind of jump in on that, you talked about it kind of evolves over time, but within each video you do, just as an example, are there certain design principles there where there's like a beginning of, hey, here's where we picked up from last time, now here's the lesson, and now here's a workbook that goes with it? Or are there certain things that you've kind of learned that have been successful for you in your structure of creating, we'll say, even each module or each video?
I try not to repeat myself too much, so I don't go, this is what we learned last time and that kind of thing. But at the with every video, there is a workbook, an Excel workbook, and I have notes in there so that people can refer to those notes. They don't have to watch my video again. They can just, notes are fairly comprehensive that they can follow along from the notes. And the other thing I've done that I think is really important is that I support my members. So, I know that you can't just, a lot of the time, you can't just watch my video and then go to your data and it's just going to work first time, because your data might be different. You might want to do something slightly different. So I spend a lot of time supporting people when they come to actually implement the techniques into their own work. And that, I get a lot of feedback about that being really important. So it's the best of both worlds, because you do a classroom-based course, and unless you're furiously taking notes or they give you really comprehensive handouts, when you get back to the real world and a month later, because you haven't had time to do anything on it because you're still catching up from the day you've just spent at the training, that you actually come to implement it, then you get stuck and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I'm there to help them. And they email me their files and photographs of the monitor sometimes, or their whiteboard. I had 2 of those last week. So that's been really, really important. And that also helps me to sort of reduce the, or to concentrate my workload. So I'll say I only open my dashboard course 4 times a year, so that I'm really busy 4 times a year for 6 to 8 weeks, and then for the rest of the year I have a bit more spare time. But yeah, I help people all the time, but I try and pigeonhole it into 4 periods of intensive work.
Sylvia?
Yeah, so I'm curious, you mentioned at the beginning that you started this course with small businesses in mind. Has that, and I know that you start with one idea and it can sort of evolve into something else, so is that still the kind of strategic focus, or has it just expanded beyond that, and did it expand organically, or was it part of your strategy in terms of who your real audience is?
Our audience, I think I couldn't envisage how it would have turned out. At the time I thought these people in small business have a need, but actually with the internet, our audience is everyone from NASDAQ companies to governments all around the world to individuals. I think actually the majority of our customers are people paying for their own training, employees in big companies who won't support them, who see the value in improving their own skills, because the doors will open when they have those skills. And I get emails frequently from people who said, this is my job progression. One guy emailed me, said, I started on 50 grand, I took your dashboard course, 3 months later I presented a dashboard to the board as some sort of self-promotion, and now I'm on 70 grand, and I've just got a new job and now I'm on 90 grand. And
wow.
It's obviously not going to happen for everyone, but that's the potential if you can get these really amazing Excel skills and put them in front of the right people, then doors will open. So a lot of people pay themselves.
Yeah, just one more. I'm curious, how much of the content how much of that inspiration is coming from your existing audience, or do you you obviously have some ideas on your own, but then I'm just wondering how much of the content is inspired by maybe questions that you get from your students or whatever.
Yeah, most of it is because I don't have a job anymore. I'm not doing that stuff. I'm not asked to do this stuff for me or for my boss. So Yeah, most of the things I get asked and that I create are as a result of questions that I've had. And that's where most of my learning has come from as well. Often I say I'm really good at Google because, you know, someone will ask me a question, I'm like, gee, I don't know. And particularly in the early days when I thought my Excel skills were really good and actually there were these questions coming in and I'm going, I have no idea.
Right.
But I could figure it out and I knew enough, and I think I had that sort of tenacity to go and crack the code and work it out for myself, and then that would become a blog topic, or it might be something I put in my course. So yeah, definitely inspired by our members.
So let's jump in with the technology a little bit. This question comes from a fellow blogger, Patricia McCarthy, over at Excel-Diva, excel-diva.com. It's the Excel Diva, and her question is more around technology, and we're going to dive into that a bit. What program do you use to run your webinars?
Okay, it's called easywebinar.com. It's not the best. As we were looking at changing it. It's pretty good, but we have some issues with it that we would like not to be there. But for the most part, it's been really good. And you know, for most people it's fine. But we have every webinar we do, we have a series of the same questions that are a bit frustrating. So yeah, it's not bad for the price.
And what do you use for? So someone has created. We'll say they created their videos, and I'm assuming from previous conversations I've had with you that you're still using Camtasia, you know, those sorts of things to actually create the videos. So you have these videos now, and you're getting ready to kind of create your delivery mechanism. What technology do you use for that?
For hosting and...
Yeah, is that WordPress, a WordPress plugin, or is there some additional program?
It's pretty complicated. Thankfully, my husband does all that. But we use Wishlist Member to protect the content. We have a WordPress website, so Wishlist Member is just a plugin. We host the videos on Amazon S3, so they're in the cloud, and that helps with delivery for wherever you are. Hopefully it's pretty good. And then we integrate that with PayPal for our payment system. We use WooCommerce as our shopping cart, which is another WordPress plugin. And we use MailChimp for our email. So everything in the background is integrated. When someone buys a course, PayPal then talks to Wishlist and MailChimp, and people get set up and automatically. So yeah, that's kind of the back end. I know there are newer plugins that you can use nowadays. LearnDash is one. That's a WordPress plugin that you can use to create course outlines and to create your syllabus to allow people to go and play the videos and that kind of thing. So that might be something for those interested. They could look at LearnDash. But there are loads of WordPress LMSs, so you could also Google that.
I'd like to kick it over to Sylvia, if I could, for the topic of the week.
Here's how it. We'll talk about, you know, dashboard design principles. Maybe comment on Stephen Few, what he would say about some of these things, and talk about what we might do to make over some of these sad looking dashboards. Stephen Few could not be with us tonight, but he had some interesting things to say on what a good dashboard is, which I thought I should recap for our audience. Dashboard being, of course, a visual display of the most important information needed to achieve one or more objectives, consolidated and arranged on a single screen. Keeping this in mind, I think the important part of the definition is, you know, visual display, important information needed to achieve one or more objectives. So I think that is the you know, something to keep in mind as we look at the next slides here and decide whether the designer knew what they were doing or not. All right, so one thing we cannot get away from is color schemes when it comes to dashboard design, right? Everybody has something to say about colors. So, Mynda, what would your advice be to the person who obviously really enjoys as many colors as possible on a dashboard? What would you say to this person if they came to you and said, we'd like your expert advice on this dashboard?
Less, I'd say less is more.
Yes.
I mean,
exactly.
I don't know how you could talk to this person without hurting their feelings, but yeah,
Right.
when I see stuff like this, I usually say, you try and use color to create associations between the different pieces of information. I think that's the nicest way of saying there's way too much in there.
Right. Right.
So to me, this is the person who paints the outside of their house purple.
Right.
Hey guys, I made this. No.
A purple fence, everything. It's all purple. There's nothing you can do for these people.
Yeah, this one is a little unfortunate. So obviously, you know, sometimes people are going to have absolutely no aesthetic whatsoever. So maybe the advice is, let's pick your one or two of your favorite colors on this slide, and then we'll kind of work within those palettes. I think, Mynda, you may agree, but Microsoft has done a better job of the color palettes in more recent versions of Office, right? I mean, this is what the colors used to be, right? And so now we kind of we have those color palettes at our fingertips. We don't all need to be graphic designers in order to make a decent looking dashboard. So that would be my takeaway for this slide. So anyway, got that one from contextures.com.
Not enough to hit.
Exactly. Now this one we talked about with Mike Alexander. What do you think about this as a depiction of events supposedly somehow related to the space race? What would you tell the designer of this particular dashboard?
I'd ask them, what was the message they're trying to convey? And try and turn around, because I don't know where to look aside from turning my head on the side. It's just too much information, it's too busy. And that's one of the things I teach in my course. Like, before you start building anything, what question are you trying to answer, or questions are you trying to answer with this dashboard? And that tends to focus people's attention to and help them narrow the content down. But yeah, that's a bit mad.
Right.
I think, yeah, I think that, and I know that this really is a terrible chart dashboard, but the lesson here to me is that, you know, people want to put all the information on there because they think, well, just put everything on there and let the user decide, and let the viewer decide as if they were like reading tea leaves. But I think that you should build with intention. So I think there's something, you know, connect the messages, as Mynda was saying.
Right.
Yeah, for me, the more I look at the dashboard, the more confused I am. And you wouldn't think that upon looking at this. You think, okay, well, I'm just going to read some and I'll figure it out. And the more I read, the more I'm confused. Just even at the title, the space race up at the top. 1957 is Russia and 75 is America, but the red line goes on longer. You know, so I'm just more confused. You know, the further I dig into this, so it's rough.
Right. This could probably be broken up into many different dashboards. All right, so far this one is O for O. All right, so let's take a look at some other data viz crimes, like, for example, this. But what do you think about this, Mynda? I don't know. What would you do to make this a better data visualization?
Yeah, I think that the infographics seem to be really popular at the moment, and the argument that I've heard is that we need to make it look interesting so people read it. And I get that, but I don't even know what it's telling me. And maybe just a nice bar chart would do.
Right. Do you think the infographics is a trend, or that will go off into who knows where, along with 3D pie charts, or what are your thoughts on?
You know, well, I don't know that they'll go away. I just hope that there'll become some standards, you know, like we've had for dashboards, and that there'll be some design principles people can follow, because at the moment it just seems to be like grab some random images that are slightly related to the topic and make them look colourful and pretty, and hopefully people will read it. Some are done really well, most of them aren't. But, yeah.
Yes, dashboards like fame have become cheap. All right. So what are your thoughts on this one? First of all, it's a donut chart supposedly, although seems to be a little backwards in terms of the green and the red.
Yeah, I don't. It's it's the wrong way around, isn't it? It's like the yes is bigger, but the red's bigger. It's
right, exactly.
Confusing. It's just totally confusing. Aside from it being a donut chart, but you know, they just looks like they've got it wrong.
You're not a fan of the donut charts? All right, so moving right along. Messaging problems are also a common issue with poorly designed dashboards. For example, this Venn diagram. We're not sure if it's a Venn diagram, but if it is a Venn diagram, they perhaps were not aware that they were, you know, making a fool of themselves.
It's a fail.
It's a, you know, not a lot of exactly utter fail. So, you know, for something like this, I don't know what advice you would have for this person other than maybe to learn some, you know, principles on what is a Venn diagram and what is the message we're trying to convey. And I think that's probably pretty fundamental to any dashboard design, right? What is the message you're trying to convey? And then what does it convey? Right?
On the positive, they got the color scheme right. So.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Right. Good colors.
There's that.
Good natural
there
colors.
You go. Congratulations, Thomson Reuters. All right, and I know we've talked about 3D a little bit, but I want to hear it straight from the expert, Mynda. How badly do you hate 3D?
It's just a big no. I mean, we were at the summit. We said to Microsoft, "Can you just take all of those features out? Just stop people doing it."
Right? Did anybody suggest that? Is that? Can you guys talk about
I
that?
did. Yeah, I did.
Well, they asked for it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
They did. I think they're getting better, but you know, I get their predicament because people love pie charts. They think that it's not a dashboard unless it's got a pie chart in it, you know. And people are trying to please their boss who doesn't know any better. So I think, you know, if they buried them so they were really hard to find, then that would be a start. But yeah, 3D it completely distorts the message, and that just explains it all. I actually wrote a blog post where I asked people to answer 3 questions from a pie chart, and it wasn't even a 3D one. And I asked them to time how long it took them to answer those questions, and I asked them the same 3 questions from the same data but in a bar chart, and I said, how long did that take? And I think that's a good test for those people struggling to convince their boss that pie charts are rubbish, particularly 3D.
Now, it's interesting you said, you know, these are some of the things that potentially should be taken out of Excel. There's been quite a few blog posts recently about things that should be added to Excel. You know, I think Chris Macro wrote one recently. There's been a few others, but I could almost see a segment of things you should take out. I mean, there's pie charts. Yeah, Clippy's gone. You know, there'd be a whole slew of things. Just get rid of these things, and pie charts is certainly on it.
Certainly the 3D ones. I don't know. There could be an uprising if they got rid of pie charts altogether. So, but, all right. So speaking of 3D, this one was pretty terrible. But I have to talk about the gauges. Is that what those things are called? What is the problem with gauges? Nobody I know likes them, yet I see them in dashboards still. So what is the deal with that? What do you think?
They just hog a lot of space. I think that's the main problem. They're taking up a lot of space. Often they don't have the target, which they have in that particular one, but you can achieve the same results in a bullet graph or bullet chart and actually have multiple bullet graphs stacked so that you can compare those different gauges, because often you'll see 3 or 4 gauges together, but you can't really compare them because they're round and awkward. But they're just not the best.
I gotta tell you, these are almost identical to the pie charts, or the 3D pie charts 10 years ago. I mean, when dashboards first came out, when I was first building dashboards 10 plus years ago or so, it was the thing. You have the gauges on it, and that's how you described it to executives. Oh, they want the dashboard. You think a dashboard in your car, you think the gauges and everything else. So I get it, but this is just something that it's one of the things that Mynda was talking about earlier. There comes a point where design principles kind of take over, and there ends up being some structure in place, and you realize, wow, this just really doesn't give me enough information for how much room it takes up. Its time is gone.
Its time is so gone, and particularly, imagine trying to read this thing on a smaller device. You know, everybody wants their dashboards mobile, and try to read this on a small screen is, I don't know if it's worse than trying to read it on your computer screen, but anyway, the message here is don't do the gauge thing.
So Jordan, you just put out a book on dashboards. What do you think about gauges?
I don't like them for all the reasons mentioned. I mean, they take up a lot of space, particularly in Excel. I mean, if you want to get a gauge in Excel, it's not worth it. It's a lot of work to get there.
Right.
You're just putting in something that kind of sizzles and that's flashy, but that doesn't really amount to a whole lot.
Right.
And that's really, I mean, it's like what you said. It's every executive. I remember the first dashboard I saw had those gauges on them, and I thought, boy, that's so cool.
Me too.
Until
I was like, woo!
I was like,
How
hey, I
do I
like
build
that
that?
metaphor. Right. And
Right.
Until you like start using them, and you're like, I don't even understand what I'm looking at here.
Right. So the moral of the story is, don't do it just because you can, is, I think, a good takeaway here. But with that said, they're still being done. So I put these images in here because they are more modern in the sense that they're all online dashboards, and you've got more white space, but yet notice that they all kind of have some of these faux pas that we've been talking about. So what is the deal with these modern dashboards that still are using things like, the distorted, it's not really 3D, but what do you call this when it's sort of like
The perspective.
Yeah, the perspective, like the distorted perspectives, and we just talked about the gauges, and so they're still being used. So why is there such a lack of kind of dashboard common sense out there in the modern world? We kind of poke fun at the old-fashioned stuff because it's old-fashioned, but as you can see here, it's still happening. So is it just that not enough people have signed up for Mynda's course, or what's going on here?
The designers of this work are usually programmers, or some visionary type, or some VP somewhere so they don't really. They've not taken the time to look at the visualization research, but they have looked at what has sold, and these sell.
I'd say two things. One is that they're technicians, and they're doing what they think people want to see. And number two, often if you're pulling images off the internet like this, it's sales collateral.
Mm-hmm.
And salespeople are building things that they think executives want to see, so they're building things that are kind of flashy, and whether they're useful or not doesn't really matter.
Well, thank you for that. It's been another exciting episode of Dashboard Rescue, and we appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. With that, we'll move it over to Jordan for the hot tips section.
We have this issue here. Okay, so I have a deck of cards over here, so you can see I have all the different kinds of cards. And I want to shuffle these, and I want to do this by way of formula. So what I need to do is I actually need to have a result where this deck of cards, which you can see is in order because I've just opened it from the box, I need to shuffle it. So the question is, how do I do that? Now, you are going to have to use a random function, and I'm going to show you. We have 52 cards, so I'm going to start here. I'm over here on the left. I have 1, 2. I'm going to actually just drag this down just so we have an index that's going to match how many cards we have. So the way most of us would think to do this is to actually use rand between, right? Because we have 52 cards, 152. If I drag that down, I'm going to get a sequence of random numbers. The issue that we have here, and I'm going to just hit F9 just to cycle through these. The issue is that we have is that these numbers repeat. So there's no guarantee, first of all, that I will get all unique numbers down here, and there's also no guarantee that all the numbers are going to appear. So this is a big problem. So we want a set of formulas, or a series of formulas, or a series of steps, I should say, not using VBA, that will allow us to come up with a random sorted order without any repeats. And that's going to be how we're going to shuffle our deck. So you can see here, I'm going to just hit F9 just to show you that I'm going to go through this. This is a problem. So how do we fix this? Well, we fix this with really 2 steps. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some noise. Now, what noise it means is that we're going to add a little bit of data just so just so that the numbers are different from one another. And I'll show you why, or explain why in a second, why we do that. So what I did here is I went up between our rand between. You can see this is between 1. If I scroll down, that's 52, so the numbers are between 1 and 52. And then I wrote this thing plus row divided by 10,000. So row is going to return the row. In this case, the row is 2. And then we divide it by 10,000. What this is going to do is it's going to divide that 2 by a very large number. So a small number divided by a large number comes up with a very, very small number. Now, I'm going to hit enter, and if I double click and we drag this down, you see that I've added these small amounts here. Now, why did I do that? Well, let me just show you, and this example worked out. I didn't even plan this. Remember, this is random, but this worked out really well. I'm just going to show you that we had a 49 came up here once, and a 49 has come up here twice. So what this row does, because this is going all the way down, is that it ensures that even if numbers repeat, the result is always going to be unique, because there's never going to be another row 14 that will be included in this. So that ensures that there's always going to be uniques. Now, we still have one other issue in all of this, which is, okay, so I have these series of uniques. What can I do now? Well, what I can do is I can use this other function called rank. And what rank will do is rank, I'm actually going to use the old version now. Excel has newer versions, but I'm going to use the old version here, so no period. So what rank does is, if I select this number, and I select this whole region here, and I'm going to hit F4 just to lock it in, and we don't have to worry about the order, so we're going to just close that. What rank does is it's going to match the location of that number within the list. So what this is saying, is that the number 38 ranks 14, and because we know we have a unique series of items here, the result, unique random order, is always going to work out. So let me see here. So I've dragged this down, and now what's resulted here is that this is actually a unique list of the sorted order. So basically what we're doing is this 33 and all of this means that this is in the 33rd position within this, in descending, within this whole list here in descending order. And you know, again, since these are all unique, if you rank them back in, the result is always going to be unique. So this gives us a sequence of discrete whole numbers that work out. And so one of the cool things in here is because there's 52 items here, the rank always has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 52. So it's always going to be 1 to 52. So what I can do here, now that I have a unique set of numbers that go from 1 to 52, is that I can actually just take this here, this unique random order, and so let's just rewrite this formula. I'll just do this here so you can see it. So I'm going to type in equals index. Let's just start it over. Equals index. We're going to say within this series of cards, select this here, and I'll hit F4 to lock it in. I always say to lock it in. So one moment. There we go. So I've locked it in, and now that I have our unique sorted order from 1 to 52, I'll close that off. I'll hit enter, and I can drag this all the way down. And that is how we get a unique card list. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to show you. I'm going to prove this out. So we have the cards here. Here's the Ace of Spades. I'm going to count this within that series right here. You can see there's a 1. All of these should be equal to 1. I scroll down. This sum is 52. So this is indeed a purely unique random sorted order. And that is how you do it.
Wow, that's great.
Clever.
Always, so, yeah, very clever. A very simple way to avoid the duplication too, because that always bothered me about the random numbered thing.
Yeah, the duplication. Oof. You know, I don't know. I mean, this sort of came to me, this this formula, but
It's
yeah,
great.
I was trying to
It's
figure out a way to
yeah,
get around it.
it's good. Nice.
So Mynda, I see that you also had a thought after the ovation from our internet, millions of internet followers.
Yeah. Wow. Woo.
Okay. So mine is less of a tip because I can't teach you all the things that I did to create this in a few minutes. But what I wanted to sort of show you is how, if you have a fairly broad knowledge of different Excel skills, then you can bring them together to create some really clever and innovative solutions. So here I have a pivot table, and I've hidden most of the columns so that I am just showing the total, but I've inserted some spark lines that pick up the trend, and then I just hide it. The other thing I've done is I've linked a slicer to the pivot table. So it's actually not linked to this pivot table, it's linked to this chart, which is a pivot chart. So as I click on a category, I see the breakdown of that category in my chart, and I've also highlighted the selected category with some conditional formatting. So, you know, there's a load of different things there that I've done to create an interactive report. It doesn't even need to be a dashboard, it's just something small that, you know, you might need to present or give to a manager for his department to sort of help him understand what's going on within his own department. He can interact with it. And you know, I've hidden the border on the slicer, and I've aligned it so it looks like it's aligned to this, or it's part of this pivot chart. But there's a whole load of different techniques there in one file. So, you know, that's the thing with the dashboard course is I teach all these different things. You can bring them together in any way you want to create innovative solutions when you have the skills. So that's my kind of tip. But that is available on my blog, and I can share the link with you, and people can download the file. And I actually had quite a few people download the file and then try and implement it themselves, so that was really cool. So that is my tip. Done.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Internet applause, Sylvia.
Oh, see? Again.
There it is.
My timing.
That's what I was waiting for. Sylvia, you had a tip as well?
Yeah, I do have a tip, actually. Mine's really easy peasy. This next tip is available in my still newish book, The 40 Greatest Excel Tips of All Time. So, named formulas. We're those of you who use the name manager or the name box to, you know, assign names to a cell. That's pretty straightforward, right? Like I can assign a name to this cell and call it tax rate, and then Forevermore, I can refer to that cell in formulas and say, you know, $5 times tax rate, right? So those of us who use names, this is, in my experience anyway, that's how most of us learn how to use names. But you can also name formulas. So here's one that I love doing. So for example, like the today function, one of the few functions that takes no arguments, is a handy little function in Excel that returns the current date, right? So tomorrow this will update to 11/18, and the next day 11/19, and so on. But there is no equivalent yesterday, right? If I try to do a yesterday equivalent, I get a name error. So this is probably like the easiest named formula you will ever create. But to do that, if I wanted to create my own yesterday function, I come over here to the Formulas tab, I fire up Name Manager, and there was my tax rate. I'm going to enter the name yesterday, and instead of referring to a cell reference, I'm just going to refer to a formula, like today minus 1, right? So that takes the today function and just subtracts 1. So now I have a custom formula, if you will. Didn't need VBA, UDF, or any of that jazz. You just do it right here in the name manager, and now I have a yesterday. I don't need the parentheses or anything. I just type equals yesterday, and so of course you all know where I'm going next. Tomorrow would be equals today. I need my open and close parentheses plus 1, right? So you can use, now you can also use the tomorrow function. Okay? Easy peasy, right? Love that one. I'm going to give my, thank you. Named formulas, right? And you can manage them all in your name manager. They're not just for cell references anymore. Okay? Thank you. All right. Now you get to see my face again. Thanks. a good one, right?
Very good. I like that one.
Yeah.
That's been on my to-do list for a long time, and I haven't
Name
written
formulas.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. They're very handy. You can. I have a more extensive one in my book. I think it's called VLOOKUP Without the Sausage or something like that, where you can take a very complex formula and if you build it into the name manager, and then it's harder for your end users to screw it up.
Yeah.
Right. And it's easier to teach and all that kind of stuff. So I love it.
So thank you for that, Sylvia.
Jordan. Thank you.
Bam. That was a great tip.
Thanks.
So let's move on over to our What's Up section. So what's happening in your neck of the woods? So first off, I'd like to bring your attention, I don't think we've talked about it yet on the program, but everybody who's in kind of the Excel world or Excel blogger world knows about this. And Contexture's Deborah Dalgleish from up there in Canada does quite a few different websites that she has, around Excel Theater, and she does her news section. She does quite a few different things, and this one in particular is usually fairly entertaining, so I'd recommend you go check it out. It's the Excel Theater blog, exceltheaterre.com, and usually what she'll do here is she'll come in and she'll grab some of the funniest texts, or Twitter tweets, as the kids call it, tweets for the week, and just come here and you can kind of read different funny things that people are saying every week. So she kind of brings this all together, and I actually thought of one about Jordan in particular. The joy I feel when I solve a problem in Excel makes me question the direction my life is going and how it went so far off course. Hashtag Jordan Goldmeyer.
That's me. There's no correcting that course.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Next thing you know, you'll have a gamer headset on and a.
Yeah, I don't know. This comically large headset, I think this is going to get replaced.
You look like a cartoon. Let's just call
I know. I'm a stereotype.
So next up, we have Excel Essentials over at excelesquire.com, or excelesquire.wordpress.com. Wow. Excel Essentials for Busy Lawyers is approved for New York CLE credit. So for you busy lawyers out there looking to take a course in New York, it is now approved. So go check that out. Yes, lawyers need Excel love too. Let's assume you're not nerdy enough by being a lawyer. You can now get your geek on. Next up, our friend Ken Pulse from excelguru.ca has just released a book along with Miguel Escobar. M is for Data Monkey, a guide to the M language in Excel Power Query. So this is just now coming out. I recommend all of you go out there and check this out. I have this on order right now. If I understand, it was a pretty big conversation topic at the MVP Summit.
Woo!
Oh, you got that? Let's take a look at that real quick.
Oh, I never got it signed. I've even got tabs. Look.
Oh man.
I've been reading.
Yeah.
It's good.
So if if the bloggers and all those people are reading it, it's got to be good. So next up, 30 feature updates to get and transform in Excel 2016 and Power Query add-ins. So this is over at the blogs.office.com. This just came out a few days ago. So go and check this out. There's an install and download, some data connectivity, how you get in there. But there's quite a few things here that are kind of new and enhanced. So go check out all of this over there. Next up, our friends over at ModelOff, Financial Modeling World Championship. Wow, they're at their finals now. It is the finals, guys. These are the final 16 that'll end up being in London. So as you scroll through here, I mean, some of these people we met last year and up. Yeah, we liked him last year. I mean, that was Oz Du Soleil's best friend right there last year. He likes Oz searched out and up just to hang out. Don't know why, but he was really digging enough. As you scroll through here, also you'll see some people from last year. Michael Clark. I mean, this guy is like always in the top 3. Dearmute Early, who won last year. He's a reigning champion. We met Willem last year as well. This guy, the way he got involved in here, we chatted with him last year. He said, "Hey, I just I was just Googling. I thought I was pretty good at Excel, so I just Googled, hey, are there any contests at Excel? And here I am. Next thing you know, it's like the guy who just shows up and says, hey, I'd like to count cards. Next thing you know, he's winning $1 million. Joseph Lau, we met him last year, so you'll see. I mean, this isn't one of those things where it's just like poker. Peter Soon, I believe he was probably in the top 3 or top 5 last year. Alvin Woon, I believe he was number 3 last year, if memory serves me. So as you look at this, a lot of the same names keep showing up over and over, the same group of people. So this isn't a crapshoot. I mean, these guys have talent, and they're showing it year in and year out. But the people who judge that talent, some of the same people from last year. You got Keel, you got Roger, you got Luca.
Roger Ailes.
Man, Roger, we met him.
I thought that was Roger Ailes.
Roger Bouvier, 8-time Microsoft Excel MVP. We met him last year at the MVP Summit episode where we chatted with him quite a bit. Do you have something to say, Jordan?
And all around nicest person you'll ever meet.
He is phenomenal. I mean, and he liked our beer koozies, our Excel TV beer koozies, which makes them extra cool. Also, in our last episode, we talked about Oz's new Excel TV show that he's coming out with. It'll be Excel TV. It says the name of the show will be Excel in the Wild. And I'm over at Oz's Twitter feed. That's at Oz Excel. And you'll see he's right there. His very first episode, he started recording. And what he did is he found this guy, Cole Mize, at Cole Mize Studios, who teaches rap school. And he's even got a YouTube channel on how to rap and where do you make the voice inflections, which is pretty cool if you go and check it out. But you can see Oz, man, he's feeling it. He's feeling it right there. So this is just a quick idea of what's coming up in the episodes that'll get released here in the next few weeks. The first episode, the maiden episode, coming out. Last up, episode number 37, number 38 with Mynda Treacy. So not only can you see that on the homepage, it's the episode that's going on right now. If you go over to full episode season 2, and you click on that, you'll come over to Mynda Treacy's episode. It's taking a moment to launch there. If you scroll on here, what we'll end up doing is filling this episode out here in the next few weeks. But if you want to watch the full episode that'll be edited over the next few days, you can click here and watch that. And you can also scroll down and leave a comment for Mynda as well. If you have any questions around her training, any of the courses that she offers, or any questions whatsoever, just come over here and feel free to leave her a message. Lastly, I'd like to bring your attention to my online training hub, which is ground zero for Excel training. That's Mynda Treacy's website over there, where she does word training and just about everything else. And all the courses here and everything. So, Mynda, I'm going to stop sharing my desktop and just hopefully that you can just talk about the website a little bit and what you guys offer over there at my online training hub.
Sure. We have quite a few different courses now. We started out just focusing on Excel, Word, and Outlook, but we've specialized and have some other courses from other instructors as well. For example, Isaac Gottlieb, who's also an Excel MVP, has done some courses for us on Excel for decision-making under uncertainty. And we've got a new one coming out for Excel for Finance, which will cover all those financial functions like MPV and PV, etc. There's Power Query, Power Pivot, and of course my dashboard course. And we have a pivot table course, which is 12 hours long. It's like everything you ever want to know about pivot tables. So come on over and check it out. There's lots of different courses to choose from. And if you're not sure if online training is for you, then you can sign up for free and you get the first third of our premium courses, which is Excel, Word, and Outlook. You can get the first third for free. And that will also get you up to speed. You know, if Excel is completely new to you or you'd like to know more about Word or Outlook, then you can do that course for free and just get a feel for it. So check it out if you like.
Thank you, Mynda. Next up is where can you find us, guys? We're all over the place. But in addition to that, in addition to being all over the place, hey, we're also on Facebook. Bet you didn't think you'd find us there, did you? Oh, one moment. Bet you're thinking, wow,
No.
How are these guys not on Facebook? Wow, we are there. So if you go over
We are.
to Facebook, not only do we have our Excel TV page, but we also have a pretty successful Excel TV group where we're adding, man, there are tens and tens of people there. Yeah, there's quite a few tens, at least 7 tens people there. We're rounding up on 1,500 members. But the cool thing about this is if you go over to the page, you'll see there's quite a few different bloggers who are asking questions. You can kind of get an update on what's happening not only with Excel TV, but here's Oz sharing some of the things that happened at the MVP Summit, all of the Excel MVPs. So there's just quite a few things going on over here. So it's a pretty robust group. I'd recommend that you come and check it out. Mynda, also, you have a pretty robust online presence. Would you mind telling people where they can find you?
Oh, sure. So if you come to our website, you can go to the blog and you'll see hundreds of tutorials on Excel, and you can also sign up for our weekly Excel newsletter and get a copy of our tips and tricks ebook. It's 100 Excel tips and tricks. So there's lots of information for free on there.
So, Mynda, thank you so much for coming on the show. Gosh, whenever I first talked with you and did an interview with you, that must have been almost 2 years ago. And then last year, you were like episode number 2, I believe, or just one of the very first few people who gave Excel TV a chance. So thank you so much for coming on. And it's been, I believe now you're at your second MVP. Is this your second Excel MVP? Yeah. So you're rolling up on your second MVP now. You've been doing an awful lot for the community. You can reliably count on you coming out with a blog post at least every week. Basically handing out free content. Yeah, basically opening up your brain and sharing with the world, and just dumping it out there. And whenever I chatted with you, whenever last time you and I had talked face to face about a year or so ago, you had mentioned that those blog posts, a lot of times, they take anywhere from 2 to 5 days, a lot of times, just to research and put on paper. And Chandu said something very similar. It takes effort. You're researching, you're preparing to teach. And so thank you for all of the free content that you make available. But in addition to that, turning a lot of that content into something that you could actually create a living on is really kind of an inspiration to a lot of us other bloggers and knowledge workers in the Excel community.
Definitely.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate that I'm able to make a living from something that I love to do, and so it's not a job, it's just a pleasure, and I'm really lucky. But anyone can do it. You just got to follow your passion, find your niche, and commit to it. Don't give up.
As I've heard you say, and I quote you quite a bit on the show, but as you say, decide what you want and get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back in about 2 weeks. We'll have 2 more episodes to close out season 2. So see us in 2 weeks. But until next time, this is Rick Grantham, along with Jordan Goldmeyer and Sylvia Uhas, reminding you to keep on excelling. We'll see you next time.